Hello, viewers, listeners, people at home. I had a request in the comments to do Vare's storyline, so that's what we're going to do today. And other than that, God, I'm absolutely certain there was something else I wanted to say here. No, I can't remember, so let's get into it. We're going to have a quick group hang with everyone, and then we will get into Vare's storyline. As soon as the doors open, a wave of sticky heat rolls over me. In the hours since I left, the wick has grown suffocatingly crowded. Kuros stands out, easily a head taller than most. Even so, I nearly lose sight of him amid the sea of swarming bodies. So Kuros is tall. Pardon me. The crowd parts as though answering his request. Kuros glances over his shoulder at Min and me before gliding through. How can anyone breathe in here? Min follows Kuros at a clipped pace. Leander is right where I left him, although he's traded places with the bartender. He holds a pair of shot glasses filled to the brim with luminous green liquid. And now for the finishing touch. A flash of magic paints the glasses white with frost. You're never gonna guess what's in these. Leander slides the glasses across the bar, and I get my third and fourth shocks of the evening in rapid succession. Ice leans against the bar, an elbow propped up on the counter. He catches the glasses and lifts one to the light before turning it upside down. The contents, magically congealed, stay firmly in place. You're supposed to make drinks, pretty boy. Don't tell me you're wasted already. Vare, perched on the bar's counter beside Ice, takes a single look at the shot glass and shakes his head. What have we here? A bucket full of boogers, Leander's nose treasure? You've eaten worse. Vare's lips twitch, and his ears flatten when Eyes offers him a glass. He turns his cheek with a sniff, and Eyes just snickers. Coward. Don't tell me you're actually... In one fluid motion, Eyes throws back his head and downs the shot. Drinking that. A dark look crosses Ice's face. It's... chewy. Chewy. Wait. Let me try again. Behind me, Min grumbles. I told you this place was a nest of degenerates. If it isn't Kuros and Min. At the sound of Leander's voice, Min's pale eyes grow wide. They look ready to bolt until Kuros sets a hand on their shoulder. I promise this will not take long. Min's eyes dart from Kuros's hand to his face, then soften. Fine, you first. While they step forward, I linger behind, struck by a sudden revelation. All of the people I've met today know each other. Good evening, Leander, Eyes. Another drinking competition, I presume. Oh, is it evening already? Could have sworn it was earlier. Just some friendly rivalry, Doctor. Nothing to be afraid of. Kuros acknowledges Leander and Eyes with the slightest nod, ignoring Vare entirely. Not that Vare seems to mind. He tilts his head, and an impish smile curves his lips when he spots Min looming silently behind Kuros. I almost didn't see you there, Min. Looking for your booster seat? Min pushes back their hood. They level Vare with a cool look. I thought Ice wasn't allowed to bring his pets in here. Veer's tail gives an angry twitch. At the first sign of an impending fight, Leander vaults clear over the counter. He slides in between Ice and Kuros. Now, let's try and keep the peace. It's not every day the esteemed doctor takes us up on a drink. His arm snakes around Kuros' shoulders. You are finally taking me up on that drink, right, Kuros? I am afraid not. We were merely escorting Chronic back to their lodgings. Kuros gestures in my direction and my stomach sinks. I reluctantly step into the light. As soon as he sees me, Leander's face brightens. Chronic. It's been too long. Everyone, this is Chronic. They're new to Iridia. I feel 5 pairs of eyes fix onto me, and suddenly the bar feels suffocatingly small. My voice nearly catches in my throat. Hi, everyone. Again? Again? Wait, you've already met everyone. Eyes and Veer level me with subtly amused expressions. Veer's tail gives a lazy wag. We did. Not that long ago, either. I'm starting to suspect they're stalking me. He looks far too pleased with himself when I roll my eyes. This calls for drinks. What does everyone want? In an instant, all eyes turn to Leander, freeing me from the burden of attention. I still can't believe they all know each other. Watching them talk amongst themselves feels surreal. But for the first time since I undertook the journey to Iridia, I feel a faint glimmer of hope. I know I was meant to meet them. The low, pleasant rumble of Leander's laughter pulls me from my restless thoughts. Well, color me surprised. You make friends fast, Chronic. I wouldn't go that far. We're more like acquaintances. A wise man once said that acquaintances are merely friends you haven't shared a drink with yet. A wise man? You said that. Here. Last week. I can hear a man's lip curl with distaste from across the bar. Leander clears his throat and continues unperturbed. Let's toast to Chronic's health. Care to join in, Doctor? Kuros politely declines with a wave of his hand. How about you, Min? No. Are you? No. A resounding pop pierces the din of the bar. We all turn in direction of the noise. Veer looks almost bashful as he accepts an overflowing flute from the bartender. Poured from a bottle so old its label has been worn blank. They serve champagne here. Since when? Veer pauses in the middle of licking champagne foam from his fingers with a coy smile. You don't mind, do you? In a transformation as impressive as his magic trick, the concern on Leander's face vanishes. He laughs softly. No, be my guest. I know you've got expensive taste. Then he shoots the bartender a frantic look. Unbothered or uninterested in his company, Eyes cants his head at me, a light smile on his lips. How about you, Sparrow? I did say I'd buy you a drink earlier. No. My treat. Eyes regards Leander over the lip of his glass. In the dim light, the glint in his crimson eyes looks downright dangerous. What'll it be, Chronic? Now we're gonna take that drink. I'll take you up on that drink, as long as it's not one of those green shots. Don't knock until you've tried them. They taste better than they look. Somehow, I doubt that, but I hold my tongue long enough for Leander to go behind the bar. He's lying, isn't he? When I glance at Eyes, he only shrugs. Like I said, they were chewy. Probably poison, too. He considers his own drink a tumbler of amber-colored whiskey. Leander's tried to kill me 12 times by now. It's always a gamble. Ver clicks his tongue in disapproval. When he finally looks my way, it's with a half-lit gaze softened by his third glass of champagne. Were I you, I wouldn't let Leander put anything in my mouth. He fans his fingers over his chest, voice dripping with fake reverence. The Wet Wig is one of the finest drinking establishments in all of Aridia. While you're here, you may as well partake of the signature watered-down drinks and stale nut leather. He sweeps his hand towards a chipped ceramic bowl filled with spindly, speckled jerky that I can only assume is nut leather. What is with the food in this city? As abysmal as you make it sound, this place is completely packed. It's not all bad. Depending on the day, the food's edible. Ice takes a measured sip of his drink. Gotta stick around for the real attractions, though. Before I can ask what he means, Leander returns with a tumbler that he sets in front of me. Uneven chunks of ice bob in a pool of reddish-purple alcohol. I eye the drink suspiciously. It better not be another disgusting concoction of Leander's. Relax, it's just the local specialty, plum gin. Although if you're feeling more adventurous... I shake my head. Leander raps his knuckles against the bar until the group falls silent. All right, everyone, let's toast. May Chronic's stay in Aridia be full of bright adventures and discoveries. Cheers. Leander, Ice, and Ver raise their glasses in unison. Min only crosses their arms, and Kuras watches with polite indifference. I tip back my drink. The plum gin is eye-watering... Kill me. I tip back my drink. The plum gin is eye-wateringly strong. Despite a sharp medicinal edge, it goes down smooth. One sip softens the edges of my vision. The next fades the din of the crowded bar into a low, persistent murmur. I find myself unwinding for what feels like the first time in years. Aren't you the popular one, Chronic? I'm guessing you met Kuras first. It would be more accurate to say that I found them. He saved my life. I merely performed my duty as a doctor. Although I must admit that I was confused when I woke up missing all my clothes. Leander makes a choked noise. Somewhere behind him, Min sighs. It's not what you think. Chronic was in grave condition. I could hardly treat such injuries through tattered clothes. Aw, he looks so conflicted. It's like, I didn't mean to. The silence that follows stretches uncomfortably long. I look away, unable to face Kuras's disappointment, and catch Ver snickering behind his hand. That's my cue to change the topic. Kuras isn't the only one who saved me today. Don't you listen? I didn't save you. You were simply there. That's Min for you. Leander reaches for Min, but they duck under his arm with practiced ease, without so much looking his way. As reliable as they are, moody. You're one to talk, considering how you neglected to warn them to stay off the streets at night. I might have gotten a little distracted. Min's only response is a short breath. At any rate, I never got the chance to thank you, Min. Don't. The less soulless alive, the better. For a heartbeat, Min's eyes flick towards Ice, and their lips twist. Ice is too busy nodding along to Ver's enthusiastic pantomime of stabbing to notice. Lost, no doubt, in an enthralling discussion. I've had enough of this hellhole. Let's go. Min and Kuras share a brief look, then the doctor speaks up. Very well, but there is something I must discuss with Leander, if you'll excuse us, Chronic. And just like that, the three of them depart, leaving me alone to savor my gin in silence. Or so I think until I hear a voice so soft and low it's practically a purr. Lost your tour guide? I turned to find crimson and pink eyes trained on me. It's not lost on me that they chose the instant the others left to strike. Just my luck. I had to be abandoned with the two most irritating people I've met all day. Monsters or not, there's no telling what I'll do if either of them push me again. Don't tell me Leander already snuck off to get his knob slobbered out back. He's got business with Curaslin men. 2-on-1 business, Isn't he lucky? I can't tell if it's the champagne or the company, but Ver has grown noticeably more relaxed. He sits with his chin propped on the back of his hand. His ears twitch whenever a hiccup shakes his shoulders. Why are you so far away? Come, join us. He pats the empty bar stool beside Ice, but I hesitate. The smile Ver wears is sweet and distinctly sly, and with drinks in the mix, I dread how he and Ice will mess with me next. We don't bite. I'm not sure about that. Just hours ago he tried to rob me, and you threatened me. Me? Steal? Surely you must be mistaken. You sure it was me? Yes, it was you. And then you had the gall to kick me out just so you could go drinking. He gives another one of his shrugs. I was lonely. A simpler answer than I expected, but I guess I can't fault him for that. Ver suddenly slumps forward, gossamer sleeves pooling where he rests his elbows on his knees. Ice sets his hand on Ver's waist, narrowly preventing him from tipping off the counter. How about we start fresh, Begin with proper introductions. Get off on the right foot and whatnot. I'll start. The name's Ver, hunter extraordinaire. Ver's right hand flutters to his chest and he bows his head, flinching when hair falls into his eyes. Ice doesn't say anything, so I suppose it's my turn now. It's chronic. Ver considers me for a long moment, his tail idly swaying behind him. Then he knocks back the rest of his champagne. It's a pleasure to formally meet you, Chronic. He says my name slowly and deliberately, savoring every syllable. A tingle jumps down my Okay. He says my name slowly and deliberately, savoring every syllable. A tingle jumps down my spine. I quickly turn my gaze away. Ice smirks at my reaction over the rim of his glass. Is something funny? Nope. I open my mouth and close it just as quickly. They want me to react, goading me into another ridiculous game. While their sharp, cat-like eyes keep me on edge, something about this tension is fun. It must be the gin. A flash of white over Ice's shoulder catches my eye. Across the bar, Curas heads for the door. I don't see Leander or Min, but it feels wrong to let him leave without saying goodbye. I'll be back. Ver hums and wags his fingers at me as I leave. I slip through the crowd, careful not to touch anyone, but just as I'm nearing Curas... Gah! I stagger, shoulder-checked by a man with a neck thicker than both my thighs. Jesus Christ. Now, as someone with thick thighs, that's impossible. Simply impossible. But, damn. He stares down at me, nostrils flaring. Out of my way, shit stain. Imagine someone using the word shit stain not ironically. My words spill out on their own. You watch it. I regret them as soon as they leave my mouth. That fucking Jen. The roughneck wheels around, shoving a bloodhound out of the way so he can close in on me. What did you say? He shoves me backwards, sending me stumbling to the sticky floor. I'm fine, but my heart leaps into my throat when I see the roughneck bearing down on me. You trying to... Oh, sorry, that's a bloodhound. You trying to start something here? The roughneck freezes, his fist cocked back. A group of bloodhounds called by the commotion circle him, sizing him up. For what feels like an agonizingly long moment, the roughneck looks from me to the bloodhounds. Finally, he sniffs and spits on the floor next to me. The lob narrowly misses my cheek. Screw it. Too many freaks in this circus tonight. He turns his back on me and comes face to face with Ice. A dangerous smile spreads across his face. You'll do. What happens next is a blur. Ice's fist crashes into the roughneck's jaw, causing an eruption of gasps, shouts, and even cheers around us. I scramble to my feet right as the frantic crowd swarms around me, cutting off my sight of everything and everyone. Through the ruckus, I hear Leander shouting, Hey, Ice! Take it outside! Ignore them, everyone. Look, drinks are on me. With those 4 words, the wick erupts with hoots and hollers. The ring around me disperses as bloodhounds and onlookers rush towards the bar. Through the thinning crowd, I catch glimpses of familiar faces. Ice vanishes out the back, dragging the roughneck behind him. Kuras lingers near the door, searching, I suspect, for any wounded before he departs. Min draws their hood up tight as they slip out a side door, while Ver leans over the counter to swipe a glass of wine from behind the bar. And Leander, seated at the opposite end of the bar, gestures dramatically and apologetically at the bartender. In the space of a heartbeat, I realize that there's no telling when or if I'll see any of them ever again. Whoever I pursue may be the last person I get to speak to tonight. I follow. So we're gonna follow Ver, because that was what was requested of me. Of all the people I've met, only one left me with more questions than answers. Ver knows more than he's letting on, I'm certain of it, and if he's feeling as playful as he was earlier, I might be able to get information out of him. Still, lingering doubt looms heavy over my decision. Can I really trust someone who lies so readily? Returning to the bar is slow work with the heavy crowd vying for drinks. When I find Ver, he's leaning against the counter with his elbows propped on the edge and a wine glass raised to his lips. Not for the first time, I catch myself staring, and judging by the looks I see thrown his way, I'm not the only one. Yet there's a clear ring around Ver that no one else seems bold enough to cross. One ear perks at the sound of my approach, but Ver doesn't so much as look my way even when I slide onto the seat beside him. I didn't think you planned on sticking around. A free drink's a free drink, even if it tastes like rat piss. Didn't you say you wouldn't be caught dead slumming in this shithole? Ver takes a delicate sip from his glass, but his tail thrashes below the bar. You've caught me red-handed. He peers at me over the rim of his glass. In the low light, his eyes glitter jewel-bright with amusement. However will you punish me? I figured my company's punishment enough for you. Ver's lips twitch, and he smiles despite himself. So, you survived the night? Are you here for praise, or will a head pat do? I feel a muscle in my jaw flex at the cruel twist to his smile. His arrogance has made a full recovery, meaning only one thing. Ver has sobered up. So much for my plan. About that, turns out you were right. I did run into trouble. Now I can't decide if you're an oracle, an actual threat, or just completely full of shit. Those are the 3 backgrounds for this game. Ver scoffs. Most would buy me a drink before insulting me. After the way you jerked me around, If anyone's owed a drink, it's me. Vare falls so uncharacteristically quiet that for a moment I fear that I've actually crossed the line. Then he props his chin on his wrist. I don't think you understand how things work here. Information is a luxury, one you flung carelessly aside. I'm not following. If you valued my words, you'd have taken them seriously. I gave you free advice, warned you of the danger you were in, and still you went prancing off to the sea spring. Small wonder the soulless didn't tear you to ribbons. My first impulse is to argue, but what he said doesn't sit well with me. How does he know what happened to me? How do you know I left Iridia? I have a very sensitive nose, remember? Right, how could I forget? Do you normally greet people by shoving your nose into their laps like an overeager Labrador? For a heartbeat, Vare's eyes grow wide and flat. Then he laughs under his breath. Only the ones I like. Vare trades his empty wine glass for a long-abandoned tumbler sweating beside him. Soft lumps of ice bob in the watery dregs of whiskey. That is Isa's drink, by the way, in case you don't read through the clues, I guess. But the truth is, I despise most people. His eyes flicker over my shoulder and thin as Leander's boisterous laughter erupts from the other side of the bar. What about me, now that we've started off on the right foot? He turns, angling so he can look me over. His gaze is agonizingly slow as it glides over me. Finally, his lips quirk. I haven't made up my mind about you yet. It's a start, or so I think until his eyes slide away and he turns back towards the bar. It's not Vare's attitude that bothers me. No, I expected that of him. It's the fact that I've got no idea how I'm supposed to hold a conversation, much less get answers when he's being so testy, and his foul mood is infectious. Did I do something to piss you off? He lets out a short breath. No. Another lie. I'm close enough to catch the subtle bristling of his tail. I'm just disappointed. People like us can't help but attract danger, yet you seek it out, and for what? Cheap thrills? I wasn't trying to get eaten by soulless. There's something I'm looking for. And you think men can help you? Leander, are you really willing to risk your life with those dipshits? What life? You've got no idea what I've gone through, or... Forget it. I start to rise, but Vare touches my shoulder. It's little more than a brush, but enough to give me pause. His eyes search mine, softer somehow than before. They couldn't even begin to understand you, but I could. I could help you if only you'd listen. How do I know I can trust you? You don't, but I'm slightly less inclined to waste your time with empty flattery or insults than those two. Is what you desire really worth risking your life for? If you knew the kind of life I've lived, you wouldn't be asking. Vare considers the condensation sweating from his glass for a long moment before speaking again. Will you trust me? Yes. I nod, and he rewards me with a small smile. Good. Vare raises the tumbler to me, then snaps back the dregs. Once he's finished, he wipes his mouth on the back of his hand. Let's talk. Outside. If I have to smell Leander's skunky aftershave for much longer, I'll hurl. With that, he slips away from the bar, leaving me to follow the path of his long, trailing tail through the crowd. It's so cold outside, the breeze cuts clean through my bandages, freezing my fingers. But if the chill bothers Ver, he doesn't show it. He lopes purposefully down the street into an alley. This far from the Wick, the bar's racket is little more than an indistinct hum. This street's as dead as the Amaryllis district was crowded. I wonder fleetingly how many unfortunate lives have been ended in this dingy alleyway. You had questions? Ask. Ver's breath mists in the dark. In the cold moonlight, his shadow stretches unnaturally long over the cobblestone street. Quickly, I've got a show to attend. Heavenly Lutist, as I'm sure I've mentioned. He looks down his nose at me, effortlessly imperious, with one hand set on his hip, and for a breath, I'm reminded of the stark want that gleamed in his eyes when he touched me. If he weren't so pretty, I'd walk away. But I need answers, and I can't think of a better way than starting with the people I met earlier. If Ver doesn't prove trustworthy, maybe one of them will. First, I ask about Ice. I'd like to know more about Ice. You two seem close. He made an impression, not surprising. He's strong, ruthless, easy on the eyes. Gives it almost as well as he takes it, even if he's awfully greedy. Big. Everywhere, really. Ver can't stop being sexual innuendo core. Bit simple, but you know what they say about still waters. I don't, but I'm too distracted by the change that's come over Ver to ask. A coy smile plays at his lips as he winds a finger around the chain dangling from his collar. I thought you didn't like most people. Ice isn't most people. He's better. Our eyes meet, and Ver's tender expression curdles. He makes a tiny sound of distaste in the back of his throat. He's more trouble than he's worth. Dangerous, too. Stay far away from him and those red-eyed freaks if you value your safety or your sanity. Is that why you scolded me for going to the Sea Spring? I really don't think Eyes is as bad as you're saying. You don't know him. Not like I do. Which is to say, biblically. The corner of his lip twitches. So, in order to get, I'm not sure, I think in order to get the sort of quote-unquote secret end for Ver, you have to say no one else here. I'm gonna go ahead and say, hold on, I'll save real quick. And then I'm going to ask about these three so we can see them, and then come back to this screen and say no one else. I've got to admit, I was surprised to see that you and Min know each other. Are you friends? Oh, yes. We laugh and go shopping and have sleepovers where we braid each other's hair and kiss with a little tongue. I'm beginning to wonder if Ver's ever had friends. Let me guess, you don't like them. Can't stand them. The first time we met, they stabbed me. Slid cold, hard steel between my ribs. Nearly nicked my heart. It was exquisite. The knife, I mean, some sort of antique. Min's done nothing but disappoint me ever since. So you're not close. Can you imagine me being friends with that crabby little killjoy? Impossible. Not unless they learn to lighten up. And I'm afraid not even a surgeon as practiced as Cuirass could remove the stick wedged firmly up Min's pert ass. Okay. What do you think about Leander? I don't. An unusually curt answer for Ver. I don't buy it. So you're not very fond of him? I wouldn't spit on Leander if he were on fire. Ver shudders. Oh no, he'd enjoy that far too much. To call Leander trash would be an insult to manure. He's a pathetic, slimy little man-child in big, shiny shoes. I've seen mutts rutting in gutters with more dignity. Damn. I have to remember to close my mouth. Before I can ask my next question, Ver gives a frustrated growl. Don't you dare ask me about another soul. Okay, I will have to. Going to load now. Going to ask about Kiras, and then we'll go back to this and say no one else. I wanted to ask you about... I regret speaking as soon as I start. Ver's mentioned Kiras before, though not by name. His reaction last time was nasty, but I can't back down now. Not with Ver eyeing me suspiciously. About... the doctor, Kiras. I tense, ready for a blowback, but Ver only flicks his hand dismissively. Bit of a bore, if you ask me, but he's popular enough. You know, on account of his massive heart. Okay, so that's two people who apparently, in this one group of friends, have massive... hearts. Okay. He winks, as though the stress he placed on heart wasn't already suggestive. There's always a line wrapped around the block for his services. People can't seem to get enough of his special medicine. Probably because he doesn't charge anything. Ver's tail gives an impatient twitch. Or they're eager for a little mouth-to-mouth with their pelvic examinations, if you get what I mean. He's incapable of not being a pervert, and that's exhausting. When I grimace, Ver grins wolfishly at me. There's clearly no point in asking him anything else about Kiras. I will say I think part of the innuendo machine is him trying to get you to stop talking about certain things. Like, you notice that it was... like, he used innuendo with Min and Leander as well, but with Kiraz, he was, like, one after the other. So I really think that it's a sort of or like, he wants you to feel repulsed, so you stop talking about a certain subject. Okay, we're gonna say no one else. I'm done talking about the people I've met, and good thing too. The longer I talk, the further Ver's attention strays. He keeps casting furtive glances down the street, his ears flicking at distant sounds in what I can only interpret as growing impatience. I wanted to ask you about something else. I'll allow 2 more questions. After that, we're done. But you haven't explained anything at all. Ver's tail gives an agitated shake. Then I suggest you make your last questions count. So much for being helpful, but I suppose that's just how information works in this exhausting city. No more time for idle chatter. I'll get straight to the point. Leander told me that the cenobium imprisons people. Did he mean you? Leander's a moaning fool with a throbbing victim complex. He loves to see himself as a savior, but the only difference between his cronies and the cenobium stooges are the uniforms. I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what surprises me more, the bluntness with which Ver spoke, or the venom lacing his ordinarily silken voice. You're asking who, when you should be asking why, says the asshole counting my questions. The look he throws me is infuriatingly self-satisfied. Fine, why were you imprisoned? For the same reason they'll disappear you, given half the chance. I'm Something special. Ver bows his head, gathering his hair in his hands and lifting it from his shoulders to bare the plain leather collar adorning his neck. See this collar? He cranes his neck, inviting me to lean closer. Looks unremarkable, doesn't it? Maybe to the untrained eye, but there's an enchantment just barely visible, like letters embossed on old parchment. Intricate spellwork has been inscribed on the collar. If I touch it, I might be able to figure out what kind of magic it holds. Touch the collar, touch the collar. I reach forward to touch the buckle, but Ver's hand lashes out. Long, slender fingers wrap around my wrist, exerting just enough pressure to hint at how easily he could sap my bones. Don't you know better than to touch without asking? He tuts like a scolding teacher, but an impish smile grazes his lips. You didn't ask first, so why should I? Our eyes meet and he grins. Because I said so. That's not very fair. Fuck fairness. Life's not fair. Oh, he's an edgelord. Although, to be fair, in his case, to be imprisoned for like he said, he's been here since Iridia was but a smear, so I imagine he's been in prison for a long time, so has a right to be a bit edgy about it. His voice lowers to a pleased rumble. Patience, Chronic. I'll tell you when and how you can touch me. Oh boy. Behave, or I'll make you bleed. He says it with a smile so sweet it hurts. Is that a threat or a promise? Story time. I had a math teacher in middle school. I went to a Catholic elementary and middle school because I guess I deserved to be punished like that. And there was this one math teacher who was like scary as hell. He kept a baseball bat in his room and he would like hit desks with it when he was angry, which was really fucking scary to a 13 and below year old, right? And he would always say like, I don't know, like really scary shit, right? About, obviously it was school related, but like about our grades or like about giving us detention, or even just like, I feel like sometimes he would say things like, if you don't straighten up, you're going to get, you're going to get messed up in in high school, you know what I mean? It's like if the teacher who said like, well, they won't tolerate that in high school, or they won't tolerate that in college, if like that teacher was like violent and was like, they'll mess you up in high school if you do XYZ. Anyway, but he would always say, that's not a threat, that's a promise. And I'm like, well, actually, a promise can be a threat. They're not mutually exclusive. Anyway, yeah. Ver doesn't answer me, but he lets go of my arm. I smooth down my bandages, more to get a grip than anything else. I can't lose my composure again. By now, I'd fully expected Ver to begin walking away, but the fact that he's still here suggests that he either forgot about his warning, or he was never counting my questions to begin with. Are you saying that's what'll happen if the Cenobium finds out I'm different? I'll be collared? Doubtful. They keep me around because I'm the best at what I do. And what exactly do you do so well? Killing. He says it carelessly, without hesitation. As long as I wear this collar, I'm made to hunt the Cenobium's dizzying array of enemies. Monsters, soulless, noisy dissidents who grow overbold. I'm bound by their will until the day I die. That's awful. Ver murmurs in agreement. It is, isn't it? And that's all you're getting from me. I really must leave now. I'll be late. That's it? Why'd you bring me here if you weren't going to explain anything? He has the nerve to laugh. Isn't that obvious? I wanted to lure you out here alone so I could eat you. You're lying again. And you're asking far too many questions for someone hiding so much. He sneers, and reflexively I shove my hands deep into my cloak. Very subtle, Chronic, very subtle. What makes you think I'm hiding anything? Maybe your behavior and the things you say? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's the tough act, or the way you tense up at the slightest provocation. I mean, he's not wrong. More likely it's the bandages. Not exactly subtle, I'll be going, unless you're willing to share some morsels with me. There's a biting edge to his playful tone. I can't tell you anything. Wrong. You can start with what you are. I take a step backward, but my back hits a wall as Ver follows me in lockstep. I turn, only to find his left hand resting on the wall beside my head, caging me in. Oh, classic. What do they call this? A kaibudon? Right? Something like that. Ver reaches for me. His fingers curl around my chin and lift, forcing me to meet his slitted gaze. Would you believe me if I said that the eyes are the windows to the soul? Sure. My eyelid twitches. Cliché, I know, but let me tell you a little secret. Ver leans in until his lashes tickle my cheek and the warm, faintly spiced scent of his hair drowns out the stench of greasy cooking fires and chimney smoke. There's nothing you can hide from me. His voice is so low, so supple, I could slip into it. The misery born of your mistreatment haunts you. I understand what it's like to be used and thrown away. I'll give your life new meaning. I swallow thickly. How could he possibly know? No, this must be some kind of trick. But for once, Ver isn't smiling. All that suffering has made your soul so irresistible. His piercing eyes pin me to the spot. The look on his face makes my blood run cold. I've seen it before. Traveling through the waste, the lanterns would occasionally reveal carcasses picked clean by starving scavengers whose eyes shone in the dark with the same ravenous hunger. Ver takes a shuddering breath. You're trembling. What if you and I went somewhere quieter, alone? So, this is an interesting choice divergence, because if we choose to surrender, then he kills us. Which, guys, is not part of a healthy relationship, in case you needed me to tell you that. And I would also say, in general, a lot of the things that happen in this particular section are not part of a healthy relationship, unless they've been agreed upon beforehand and are like a scene, etc., etc. What is it? Risk-aware, consensual kink, right? Rack. But I think it's interesting that they have this choice in the demo at all. I'm hoping that it is connected to like a level of possible lethality in the game. It's in the future game itself. Like, I think that would be really interesting. And like actually put in some stakes that, up until this point we haven't really made a choice that was like, the wrong choice, right? It's all been, there are better choices for you to get different endings in the demo, I believe, but as far as like actual consequences within the game, within the story, there haven't been like significant ones. And we've had plot armor like the whole time up until now. But I think that what they're trying to indicate with this is that, like, actually in the real game there are going to be times when you could die, and sometimes like the people that you are with are the most dangerous of all, is what I kind of glean from this choice. So it's I think it's cool that they put it in here. I kind of wish that, like, they had, like, I love that they did a trigger warning at the beginning of the game, but I do wish that they had some sort of statement about, like, this is all fantasy and, like, you shouldn't, I don't know, something. So I think something about risk-aware consensual kink would be, what's the word? Responsible. Yeah. Because I think this is that's what this game is. Like, a lot of the dynamics between you and the different characters have vibes of, like, oh, in this relationship you would be the sub or you would be the dom, right? Like, we see Leander being very subby, and I mean, in this section Vare, like, really has a disdain for Leander and that part of Leander. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with this. Yeah, but I just wish they had a warning, because not everyone who plays this game is going to is aware of, like, I don't think everyone that plays this game is going to be aware of, like, kink, right? But I think it would be responsible to make people aware that, like, essentially what they are interested in this story is, like, an exchange of power dynamics. Like, if they're attracted to something in this story, it doesn't mean that they would be attracted to it happening in real life, but they might like a scene with it, right? Yeah, so I kind of wish they had done something. Not, it doesn't have to be, like, a lot. It doesn't have to spoil anything. I just think that it would be kind of responsible to at least give people, like, an awareness of what they enjoy, so they're not like, oh yeah, I love toxic relationships. I think that's hot, because you wouldn't like being in a toxic relationship. It's not fun, but, like, you would enjoy pretending, because pretending is fun. Okay, anyway, that's enough from PSA Chronic. Okay, we're gonna resist. Part of me wants nothing more than to let him take me, to surrender completely to him. It would be so easy. But I'm not about to give up now. You're late. Ugh, the lutist. Vare blinks. His voice comes out soft and breathy. Shame. He eases back, and for what feels like the first time since he cornered me, I breathe, but my relief is short-lived. Nimble fingers trail down my jaw before closing around my throat. The touch is feather-light and teasing, but my pulse still leaps. Vare's lips twitch into a smile, his white-ringed pupils thinning with amusement. You're fun, Chronic, even if you frequently forget your place. But if you ever call me a dog again, I'll break you. Understood? Also, I don't recall, I've seen this line, like, in the times that I've played the demo. I do not remember calling him a dog, and that's just, I don't remember that. When I narrow my eyes at him, he smiles wide enough to flash his sharp white fangs, as much a warning as a smirk. As soon as Vare releases me, I sink against the alley wall to catch my breath. He looks down on me, his expression distinctly smug. Let's get one thing straight. I ate a monster 3 times your size for breakfast. 2, actually. See, I would feel more threatened if... I don't know, this isn't threatening to me because it sounds like an exaggeration. Even if, like, it could easily be true. I don't know what he ate for breakfast, but like, it sounds like something that someone would say just like as a sort of throwaway. So I don't feel threatened by it. I mean, maybe that's the point, but the first tasted dreadful, like a fisherman's old ashtray, but that's beside the point. You and I may be alike, but don't ever forget what I am, or what I do best. He flashes me a dazzling smile. Chronic? Anyone seen Chronic? Oh, sorry, that was Leander's voice. Oh well. Leander's voice echoes from the direction of the wick. I whip around. I nearly call back before remembering Vere's apparent distaste for Leander. I glance back at Vere. And he's gone. Only he's gone, vanished into the dark. I'm left in the deserted alley, trembling with a delirious mixture of exhaustion and excitement. Fuck. I let out a long, shaky exhale that condenses in the freezing air. Only once my racing heartbeat slows do I make my way back towards the wick, guided by the distant sound of Leander's voice. Okay, and then you choose your fate, and then they show you it. We don't go further than this. Okay, so that was the last video for the Touchstarved demo. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. I do think that, I mean, like I said, Ice is my favorite because maybe I'm basic, but you give me someone who... Ice is kind of like a cat to me, and I do like cats. I think they're funny, and I think Ice is funny. Kuros and Men are also up there for me. Leander is my partner's favorite, which is wild. And a little insulting. No, I'm just kidding. And then Vere is definitely interesting. Like, if the game comes out and if I get the game, I will be, like, at least for myself, if not for the channel, doing a playthrough of Vere's storyline because I find it interesting and I want to know, like, why the Cenobium... Well, I'm not like surprised that the Cenobium would have him chained up. Like, I take him seriously when he says he's powerful. But also, I'm curious about how much power the Cenobium has over him. Yeah. And also how we're going to get him out and what getting him out will do to the world. Because if he gets out and he is super bitter, which justifiably I would say, because no one should be imprisoned, ACAB, big abolish all prisons vibe here. But if he is resentful and he's super powerful, like, what happens to the world after we release him? And that's kind of also an issue that abolitionists are thinking about as well, because we don't really currently have infrastructure to... Wow, I didn't think I would be talking about abolition in this video, but we don't currently have infrastructure to, like, help deal with, you know, people that do really awful things. And if we want to abolish prisons, and I do, we need to work on that and think of interesting and viable solutions for how to address really serious crimes in a way that is not prison, because prison isn't very useful. It's like, it's inhumane, it's expensive, and it doesn't work. Like, the recidivism rate is something like 33%, right? So, like, if it was a useful rehabilitation tool, then we would see that would be not nearly as high. But it's not, and they don't want it to be, and it was never intended to be rehabilitation. It was always intended to be sort of a form of forced work and It's also very good at hiding the unemployment rate because, especially because a lot of homeless people end up in prisons. And people who are in prison don't count towards the unemployment rate. Yeah, it's a very deceptive system, and I'm curious to see if the sort of storyline with Ver goes in a sort of abolitionist framework for the plot and the story and the narrative, all that. I would really be interested in that. I don't expect that because I think the sort of impetus for the plot of Ver is probably going to be, I'm guessing you make a deal with him and he's like, well, if you get me out of the cenobium, then I'll help you with your problem. And then you're faced with like a moral quandary, like, oh, do I get him out of the cenobium? Do I what will I unleash upon the world? And, it's true, Ver is dangerous, but also, like, so are all of these people, and only one of them is imprisoned. Yeah, anyway, sorry. I really went on a little rant there, but I think that's fine. So please like, comment, share, subscribe, and yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys think. And if you really wanted me to do a different character and I didn't, let me know, and maybe I'll do a playthrough with, or not a playthrough, but just like come back to this final scene and do someone else, if that is something you really want. I think my next video is probably going to be another sort of supernatural visual novel, less intense, I would say, than this, but ironically also dealing with issues of policing, and perhaps, like, really, I was extrapolating here to talk about that, but I think in this one it becomes more clear, and yeah, I'm curious what person you guys will like from that. It's called, what is the game called? When the Night Comes, I believe. Yeah, so that's the next one I'm going to do. I hope you guys like it. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on the Ver playthrough, and yeah, I will see you guys next time.